The last time you felt genuinely excited, not from a screen. When was it? Not the buzz when a notification drops. Not the small hit when a new video starts automatically. I mean the kind of excitement that fills your whole chest before your brain even decides whether it is real. Most people go quiet when they actually think about that question. Because the answer is, a long time ago. That is not a personality problem. That is not depression. That is not who you are. That is what dopamine depletion looks like from the inside. And it has a timeline, a specific, biological, measurable timeline. Which means it also has a direction out. You wake up, and before your eyes fully adjust, your hand is already moving toward your phone. You already know this about yourself. The scroll takes maybe 12 minutes. You put it down and feel nothing. Not rested, not satisfied, just slightly less uncomfortable than before. Here is what is actually happening inside your brain during those 12 minutes. Your dopamine fires, fast and hard. Then it crashes below the baseline it was sitting at before you picked up the phone. And your brain, in response, quietly removes some of the receptors that receive dopamine. So tomorrow morning, the same scroll produces half the feeling at double the cost. This process has already started. And it runs on a clock. Your brain's reward circuit runs on two structures. The ventral tegmental area, deep in the midbrain, produces dopamine and fires it forward. The nucleus accumbens receives it. Between them sit the D2 receptors, the gates that determine how much reward signal actually gets through. Under chronic stimulation, short-form video, social media feeds, engineered food, D2 receptor density drops. Research from the National Institute on Drug Abuse suggests that lower D2 receptor density correlates directly with impulsivity, reduced motivation, and an inability to feel satisfied by ordinary experience. Not because ordinary experience changed. The problem was never discipline. The problem was receptor density. Your brain is running on fewer reward gates than it had 2 years ago. The question is whether you want to rebuild them, and whether you can survive what that actually feels like. The rebuild starts with one decision: remove the primary spike. And the next 14 days will be the hardest thing your nervous system has done in years. Neuroscientists call it the Dopamine Valley. Your reward system, deprived of the inputs it adapted to, does not return to baseline immediately. It goes lower first. Anhedonia sets in, the clinical word for the inability to feel pleasure from things that used to work. Food tastes flat. Music sounds like it is coming from another room. Getting off the couch requires more effort than it should. The valley is not evidence that you need what you removed. The valley is evidence that your dopamine system is alive enough to respond. Most people quit during days 3 through 7. They mistake the crash for proof they were wrong. Neither can I always get through the valley without doubting every decision I made to start. But I know what the valley means now. It means the reset has already started. Around day 14, something shifts. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Research suggests that after approximately 14 days, without the primary dopamine spike source, measurable receptor upregulation begins in the nucleus accumbens. The brain starts building new D2 receptors. The reward gates begin to reopen. The baseline, the floor your emotional life sits on, begins to rise. This is not motivation. This is biology. And biology runs on its own timeline regardless of whether you understand it or believe in it. The science does not require your faith to work. Around day 14, you may notice ordinary things registering again. Sunlight through glass, the temperature of a room changing, a meal tasting like it did when you were younger. These are not small things. These are your receptors coming back online. Day 90 is not a motivation milestone. It is a biological marker. Research suggests that at approximately 90 days, D2 receptor density in individuals who removed chronic high-stimulation inputs approaches the range documented in non-depleted populations. Not permanently changed, responsive again. The difference between a person at day 0 and a person at day 90 is not discipline. It is receptor count. You are not trying to become stronger. You are trying to get back something that was already yours. By day 90, music tends to sound full again. Work produces its own momentum. The gap between wanting something and moving toward it narrows. Not because you trained yourself, because your brain rebuilt the architecture that makes life feel real. The next episode covers what you are actually resetting from. Engineers who build short-form content platforms have internal records documenting precisely when your dopamine is at its daily low. They design the notification window around that number. After 30 days inside that window, your reward threshold can shift beyond casual reversal. The number they use is specific. After you hear it, 90 days will make sense as a minimum, not a milestone. Subscribe if you want that, because I am not making content. I am building a map for people who are lost.